experience when you first came in here, fill in about 90% of the gap. It doesn't need all of this information. The brain is able to simulate a certain scenario. And the way it simulates scenario is, to put in a layman's colloquial term, is not only through the moment before when he walked into this room to see what's before, what's after, what's left, and what's right. It's actually to bring in all of his baggage of how he feels about this room, how he feels about this person, just by looking at the person's dress, this person. How many Chinese, how many Caucasian, how many middle-aged. It's automatically filled in based on previous baggage. And how he feels about this space, or this talk, or whatever. All of that simultaneously is here. Right? Once that information, something out here, eyes see, goes into the occipital cortex, regenerates this information, this scenario. There's something within us that's constantly, moment to moment, which has really helped us to survive as a human race. But something, moment to moment, is continuously assessing whether the situation we're in is threatening or beneficial. And that is the amygdala here. This is the alarm bell that responds to stimulus, fight or flight. Responds to every moment of our waking and, yes, our sleeping life. In other words, you don't need any external situation. In dream, you can actually, your brain can actually simulate a situation in which you actually have physical sweat. You'll become fearful or you'll become happy, completely within your mental construct. And moment to moment, the information is gotten from the amygdala is actually the hippocampus. Hippocampus, part of the limbic system, has a very short list of threatening or beneficial scenarios. And it acts much more faster than the prefrontal cortex, which is able to reason things out, assess it logically, whether it is threatening or it functions much slower. So what's happening is, this morning I heard there's a fellow that used to come here, and he doesn't come here anymore, or less, because even though he's Chinese, he's kind of bilingual. He kind of grew up here, and every time he comes here, a lot of people speak Chinese. He feels like it's like a Chinese island here. He doesn't feel really comfortable here. It's like everyone's Chinese. He doesn't feel really Chinese. So he kind of stops coming, right? So that kind of that's a scenario in which he has kind of rationally think through. He can pick up, but it could be something. The first time he came here, it could be something instinctual. He's already has this maybe identity crisis. Chinese. Yeah, don't know how to speak Chinese, or not that good. Walking into his room, all of a sudden he assesses, sure there's too many Chinese people. Or something like that. Once that is assessed as a negative or a plus, right? In this case, negative. Let's just use that as an example. The hippocampus maybe has some kind of past negative experience. Remember, a lot of the information is filled by our baggage. Hippocampus, once assessed that, sends information directly to two places. One, prefrontal cortex, and two, amygdala. But amygdala functions, responds, process very quickly, quicker than the prefrontal cortex. So automatically, he already has physiological response. On a physiological level, threatening, his behavior will already be changed. Now let me use a very potent example. I talked about the snake before, right? Before you came in, say you come in here, the light is not quite on. It's just very dim. And you see something squiggly on the floor. Your prefrontal cortex haven't figured out that's a cord. Hasn't figured that out yet because it's too quick. Immediately, you will jump back. How many of you have that experience? Right? Immediately jump back. When you jump back, in that split instant, so many things are happening. Hippocampus, see that? Squiggly, dark, danger. Sends info to amygdala. Amygdala sends information to the pituitary gland, which is in charge of your hormones, stress hormone. In that instant, stress hormones are being dumped into your blood system, completely filtered. You are ready for fight or flight. Your lungs dilated, your pupils dilated. All the things that you need in order to fight or flight becomes the predominant necessary things, such as blood start to flow to the limbs. Pain is actually reduced. Right? Immune system reduced. The blood, your blood flow start to go to the arm and legs, getting ready to fight or flight. This happens without you even thinking about it. So everything is dumped through the blood. The problem here is, once the amygdala, which is sends the information down, it's part of the autonomic nervous system, which is one of the primary nervous systems in the body, connected to the spinal cord. All the fibers, this nervous system has all the fibers directly connected to all the internal organs to the spine. So it's not like through a kind of, some systems are functioning through synapses. Something sends a electrical, if I were to give an analogy, electrical current, and at the other end, the receivers, for example, in part of the brain, there's something called the androids, are receiving that kind of skipping. We're not talking about that. We're talking about direct connection to all the body major parts. Right? So this is immediate, it's emotive, and it's immediate. Right? Very, very fast. And it's below consciousness. It's almost like we're doomed to have stress. Now, what happens if someone, they did this experiment, to different animals, when they cut the part of the sympathetic nervous system, the amygdala, sympathetic nervous system, the person actually just becomes like a stasis, has no response anymore. And what happens if a person leaves that in the sympathetic nervous system that's in charge of fight and flight, constantly looking out for danger or pleasure, and cut the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a balancing point of how to relax the body, then that person wouldn't last a few minutes. They will immediately die because everything will be perceived. They will have no system in their body to actually bring them back to a kind of calm and relaxed state. So the stress level becomes really, really high. This system runs together in the autonomic nervous system. So we need a balance. So it's not that stress. First thing we need to understand is stress is not something necessarily bad. A short, they've also done tests on this, short occasions of stress actually induces concentration. People actually can focus more, which is part of the fight and flight defense mechanism. They can actually get the job done. And how many of you have had this experience? You have a work done, a project, you can actually get everything done. After that project's done, you just kind of collapse. You catch a cold, you catch flu, and very easy to kind of get sick. Right? This is kind of the imbalance. But during that time, your adrenaline is high. Right? Stress hormones are poured throughout the body. So stress is not necessarily bad, but imagine if a person is continually under stress. That would be a problem. Chronic stress. Chronic stress, they've studied that. Chronic stress actually deteriorates our ability to reason, to concentrate, to remember. We have memory lapse, and part of the reason is that the hippocampus over here, receives the information, sends it out to amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Amygdala immediately responds. Maybe the prefrontal cortex sees that, oh, turn on the light, it's a cord, it's not a snake anymore. It kind of calms down and everything. But there's already stress hormones dumped into the blood. Right? So when the blood circulates through the autonomic system, the signals, synapses, and throughout the blood returns to the brain, the amygdala now senses that as, oh, non-threatening, and gives message to the hippocampus perceives that through these receptors in the brain from the bloodstream coming back through the spinal cord. Hippocampus receives that information and tells the amygdala, okay, stop dumping stress hormones, cortisol into the blood system. You can stop it. It's like a gatekeeper. Right? And then the hypothalamus functions in that cycle too. These three work together to help to regulate stress. Now what happens, if study have done, if a person has chronic stress, the dendrites, the receptors, actually deteriorates. Which means the hippocampus can no longer send proper information to the amygdala. And what happens is this, it's like driving without a brake anymore. Now the car just keeps on driving. The gas pedal keeps on pumping. And that person will start to have serious physiological, psychological, emotional, behavioral symptoms. And all of us are familiar with what some of these symptoms are. And this chronic stress can be, work, or family, or friends, continual stress loads. Right? Then the body will start to break down. But the good news is, the dendrites can actually grow back. But at a certain point, so far scientists tell us, at a certain point, it cannot go back. So the person will have some psychological damages. Cognitively, in terms of the metabolism, even will have skin problems, and the immune system start to break down, and digestion, emotion, all of these problems will start to emerge. I usually give this workshop, by the way, a much longer time, so I'm not going to go into detail. If you're good friends with Warren or someone, you can get a whole copy of this PowerPoint, and maybe you can kind of study it. Yeah.
I have a problem like that, so I've been having a stomach issue for many years.
Yeah.
And I went to the hospital, do endoscopy, check everything, take medicine, and just cannot recover.
Yeah.
And the doctor said maybe because of your stress.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons.
That's why we're here. We're learning. Yeah. I'm just laying out the map now. Like giving a menu. The real meat, the thing, is the methods of practice, which we'll practice later. And tomorrow, there's a one-day retreat. So just by studying the menu, that won't help. Yeah, amygdala, send out. Try to tell that when someone's yelling at you. Stop giving my amygdala a problem. I don't need that. That's not going to help. We need methods of practice. We need technique.